Diane Jensen, Pinellas County Extension, Family and Consumer Sciences.
And I'm Karen Saley, Family and Consumer Sciences.
And we're here to talk to you a little bit today about what you need to eat as a diabetic. I know we get a lot of those kinds of questions. Karen and I go out into the community a lot of times, and many of the individuals that participate in some of our nutrition programs are really kind of puzzled by that whole thing. I've just been newly diagnosed as a diabetic. What do I eat? So we're going to talk a little bit about that today, and then give you some ideas for some really quick and simple recipes that you can make at home. First of all, we're going to start out a little bit about talking about some of the types of foods that we need to kind of watch as we, as diabetics, as we're eating. A little bit about the starchy foods. We've got kind of groups of foods, the whole grain products, the instant rice, some of those kinds of starches, some of our starchy vegetables like potatoes, carrots, peas, and corn. Those are all kind of grouped together in that starch category. They're essentially the carbohydrates that we often hear about, and we want to make sure that individuals control the quantities of the carbohydrates that we're eating.
Yeah, and you know, it's really nice now that they've come out with these whole grain rices and the whole grain pastas instead of just those white.
Yeah, the nice thing about, you know, anytime you are looking for some kind of a grain product, we're really encouraging people in general, but certainly in particular those individuals who have diabetes, to actually look for that whole grain product, because it kind of gets into the bloodstream a little bit more slowly than the regular white processed products. So we also have a wide variety, and we really are encouraging people to eat lots of non-starchy vegetables. So we're going to actually show you what your plate needs to look like a little bit later on in this segment. But a lot of the non-starchy vegetables like squashes, carrots, peppers, onions, there's so many different choices that you can make out there. And of course, we always encourage people to think about buying in season, and when things aren't in season, of course, relying on some of the canned products, preferably the no salt added canned non-starchy vegetables that they can use to kind of add to the plate. So those types of things really work well.
And frozen as well. I know
Yes.
we always encourage everybody have fresh, canned, and frozen on hand, because that's the only way you're going to get those 5 to 9 servings a day.
Exactly, exactly. Then of course fruit, again, fruit is another example of foods that contain carbohydrates. So again, it's a matter of controlling the carbohydrates, not eliminating them, but controlling them and spacing them out throughout the course of the day. So things like bananas and oranges and apples, and again, it's preferable to eat the whole fruit compared to the juice. Juice is fine, but it will affect your blood sugar level a little bit more quickly than that whole fruit will. So always try to opt for the whole fruit whenever you can, certainly.
You know, and I think that sadly, many diabetics feel that they have to give up fruits, and that's just simply not true. You just have to be aware of what you're eating and keep it in control.
Exactly. And of course, if you're going for the canned products, the best types of canned products are those in water or in their own juice. Kind of stay away from those that are really kind of immersed in that heavy syrup, because in those particular cases, you're getting about twice the carbohydrates per serving than you would if you found a fruit that's in its own juice. So again, look for those types of things on your label as you're shopping at the store. Another source of carbohydrates, but we really encourage people to consume lots of dairy products or consume dairy products for the calcium, but they are a source of carbohydrate. So typically we're encouraging people to kind of look toward their low-fat or fat-free milks, the fat-free yogurt. In particular, look for a yogurt that doesn't have a lot of those extra sugars added and extra fruits added in the form of, a lot of times there's a lot of high fructose corn syrup.
That and all of those yogurts they have out there with the fruit already added in them, you're much better off to buy a nice low-fat vanilla yogurt and add your own fresh fruit instead of the fruit that's in there.
Exactly. So, and we're going to actually be doing something with one of the fat-free yogurts that are out there that does have a little bit of fruit, but it is kind of using a non-nutritive sweetener, one that doesn't really raise your blood sugar level as much as some of that added sugar would. The other thing, of course, is when you dress your salads and when you spread your bread, we're encouraging people to kind of look for some of the lower fat or the lighter products in the way of salad dressings and mayonnaises and even the buttery spreads and those types of things. So be aware of that and kind of look at those types of things that you might find in the supermarket as far as the lighter labels. So today we're going to make a couple of recipes. We've actually got something, most people, when you think about tuna fish, and I know when we go out there and do those programs, Karen, what do we hear from the audiences in terms of what do you put in your tuna fish?
Lots of mayonnaise.
Lots of hard-cooked eggs, celery and onion, that's okay as well. But one of the, we really want to think about people kind of increasing their vegetable consumption, so this is a great way of taking some tuna fish and really kind of boosting our vegetable content in our diets. So we're going to start out with one of the bag salads. This happens to be a broccoli slaw, but if you want to use coleslaw, regular cabbage that you buy, you can chop that up. You can use the regular bagged lettuce or a head lettuce and kind of score that up to actually put in the bowl. So we've got a couple of cups of that. And to that I'm going to be adding a little bit of tuna fish. That of course is packed in water. That's obviously a better choice because we're watching our calories as well. And to that, we're going to be making a dressing. Again, we talk about all of the mayonnaise-based dressings that are out there. So instead of adding a lot of mayonnaise to this particular recipe, we're going to start out with a little bit of the light mayonnaise and to kind of doctor it up a little bit because sometimes people just don't quite like the taste of the light mayonnaises. We're going to put a little bit of lemon juice. That also kind of thins it out a little bit. And then dill weed. And if you don't have dill weed certainly in your pantry, you can always go for one of those herb combinations. Like this one is kind of an Italian herb medley, so it's kind of like a number of seasonings into one. So instead of having some of the single seasonings, we're going to actually add that to the mix, and we'll mix that up, and then we're just going to add that to the tuna and the broccoli slaw.
You know, part of the fun of making things like this is to be able to think outside the box a little bit and use what you have on hand in your pantry. If you just had tarragon and not dill, tarragon would be great, or some basil would be wonderful.
Right.
And
some of those types of things. And then of course salmon is also another type of canned meat, or some of the canned chicken products that you've got around. That's certainly another option as well. And then what we'll be doing is we're going to actually just kind of mix this up, and then we're going to stuff this in our pita pockets, our pocket breads. And I don't know how many of you out there have tried the pocket breads, but they are absolutely wonderful. A half a pocket, like you see here, has got about 15 grams of carbohydrates. Again, read that label on the back. This happens to be a whole wheat variety, as we're encouraging people to look for. So we're just going to put a little of the mix in here.
it's very nice that they've come out with all of these whole wheat products.
Yeah.
I like to see that. The tortillas as well, if you like burritos and those sorts of things.
Again, this particular, we've cut this down. This actually makes 4 servings. I kind of overstuffed this, and we'll serve this up then with a little bit of kind of greenery on the side, and that kind of makes a really nice lunch meal with maybe some fruit and a glass of low-fat or fat-free milk, certainly. Now another recipe, and one of my favorites and such an easy one, is something we call strawberry whip. Again, you can be creative, use any kind of flavor of yogurt you want, any kind of a fruit you want, be it a canned fruit, be it a fresh fruit. If blueberries, for example, are in season, a combination of blueberries and blueberry yogurt. But today we're actually going to be using some of the fat-free strawberry yogurt, and we're going to be adding that to about a cup of the low-fat whipped topping that you can find in the freezer section. This makes a wonderful dessert.
And you know, it's good that strawberries are in season right now, so it's apropos that we're using strawberries.
Right.
But you were right, when strawberries aren't in season, or during the winter months when you might only get, you know, some other type of fruit, we have those wonderful mandarin oranges and the pineapple and all of these wonderful fruits that you just can mix and match with different flavors of yogurt.
Yeah, and the other thing too that a lot of times people don't think about is the frozen fruits. They're obviously, big thing is that if you're buying frozen fruit, read that label once again, because there is some of that fruit that's actually frozen with sugar added. So as a diabetic, you really want to be careful to try to minimize the amount of added sugar that you get in your diet. So we're going to be adding about a half a cup of some fresh strawberries, and we'll be mixing that up, and this makes a wonderful dessert. And of course, we're being fancy this morning, or today. We're going to actually just add a little bit of the yogurt into, or the mix into the, and I'm being a little messy here. I think I've got kind of a big, into the parfait glass.
You know, and I understand that this is really good frozen as well.
It is. You can actually put this in the freezer.
And then you take it out of the freezer and it's
Right.
really nice and creamy.
Yeah. And then we actually just we'll kind of put that, you know, again in the freezer, as Karen was saying, and then let that kind of be a great dessert that you can have at the end of a meal.